Who will start at quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers in Week 1? College football best bets for Friday night. And speaking of college football, will the Alabama Crimson Tide defeat all of their regular season opponents by double digits this season? All that's coming up today on Bet. He's Tyler Foljam. I'm Joe Fortenbaugh. Matt Harvey Day today for the Baltimore Orioles.
Matt Harvey, my Baltimore Orioles dog of the day winner
yesterday.
Last night at what, plus 260, plus 270?
That's a big call. Why? What possessed you to do that?
The starter for Toronto, Hyun-Jin Ryu, was a lefty, and the Baltimore Orioles surprisingly spry against lefties. I think Ryu was no-hitting them through 5, and then they scored late. But Steven Matz on the bump today for the Blue Jays is a lefty as well.
File it away.
Could we go
File
back?
it away. Daily Wager today, ESPN News, 6 p.m. Eastern. Football coverage, additional style, on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ESPN Sports Betting. We're going to be rolling out a lot of individual picks and bets, shorter form videos in the very near future, so keep an eye on all of that. Let's get it going. We begin with Let It Ride or Cash Out. If you agree with the sentiment at hand, you're going to let it ride. If not, you're going to cash out. We begin with those lovable Metropolitans of New York. Let it ride or cash out. Currently 5.5 games back in the National League East. The New York Mets will finish the season at least 10 games back in the division.
I am going to cash out on this particular statement here. They're currently 5.5 back of the Atlanta Braves atop the division. They do have in the month of September, though, 13 games left against the Marlins and the Nationals. And those are the teams at the bottom of this division. And we know Miami and Washington have kind of punted on this season. So very winnable games there. They'd have to drop another 4.5. Atlanta, of course, is trying to surge and win games. And there's a couple of tough series they have with teams that are still in it trying to fortify either a wild card spot or a division title. But those 13 games left against Miami and Washington make me think they'll survive without falling 10 games out of first. Although their GM just got in trouble for a DUI today. So, I mean, they're in the news every day for something bad.
And that is why you go ahead and you
you might be right here.
My young, handsome friend, can you smell that? That smells like quit. And that's the New York Mets MO for the rest of the season. Everything that they have put on the table shows you that they are about to just pack it in on the season. Number one, a losing streak where they showed no backbone whatsoever in giving away the division. Number two, the newly acquired Javi Baez essentially booing his own fans. Francisco Lindor, you only gave him $1 billion. And outside of giving you a stinker of a season, he's booing the fans. You're at war with them. And then, of course, more drama with the front office. This team has all the makings of a squad that in the final week or two is going to look up at the standings and say, you know what? Forget it. We're done. We're going to Cancun. If you look at the Mets, you're right. They do have, I believe, the 12th easiest schedule the rest of the way out, but the Braves have the easiest schedule, the Phillies have the easiest schedule, and the Braves have the 4th easiest schedule. So for the NL East, they should all be surging late, but who knows how it's going to play. But when in doubt, bet the Mets to blow it in some way, shape, or form.
New York Metropolitans.
New York Mets. Thank God for the Yankees in that great city. All right, let it ride or cash out. Number 2 to the college. Did you already flip it? That's on me.
Yeah,
that one's on me.
I tried to get too far there.
Let's go to the college gridiron. Let it ride or cash out. The top-ranked Alabama Crimson Tide will win every regular season game this year by double digits.
I hate to do this, but I'm going to cash out as well on Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide winning every game.
You'll sweat a little bit this year with this one.
Yeah, exactly. Now, first off, they have to win every game. One loss, obviously, and you're not winning that game by double digits. But if they do go undefeated, I see at least 4 or 5 spots on the schedule where it might take a closer game, a one-possession game, something under 10 points. Of course, Week 1, Mercedes-Benz Superdome, or where's it, the Mercedes-Benz Dome? What is it in Atlanta?
It's Mercedes-Benz.
Okay, not the Superdome.
They also have it in the Superdome, but that's now the season
Georgia Dome, I guess is what they call it. The Mercedes-Benz Georgia Dome against Miami. At Florida, in Gainesville, a ranked team. At A&M, a top 10 team.
That's a big
down
one.
there in College Station. Playing LSU even in Tuscaloosa, that could be a tough game, a rivalry game. And then going to Jordan-Hare. Even though Auburn's not good.
Jordan-Hare?
Jordan-Hare. Even though they're not a great team this year, it's still a rivalry game, and anything could happen there at Jordan-Hare. I don't know why they do it, but that's the way they do it.
I'm with you on this one. It's going to be difficult to pull this off. I think you made the best point. It's that you got to go undefeated. Yeah. You're not just winning by double. You got to go undefeated. You can't. If there was going to be a year Alabama slipped up just a little bit, this could be the year. There are only 3 starters back on offense. They have to replace a Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback who went in the first round, 2 wide receivers who went in the first round, one of which won the Heisman Trophy, a first-round cornerback in Patrick Surtain, and a first-round running back in Najee Harris. Oh, by the way, offensive coordinator Steve Sarkisian left and took the Texas job as well. This is going to be a very good team, probably the best in the country, but winning every single game by double digits. We just need one slip-up, and it's not going to surprise me in the least if it's the game against Miami. Laying 19.5, 20 at this point, the total's coming down. De'Aaron King is a mobile quarterback. That has been the kryptonite for the Nick Saban defense. Don't be surprised if Miami, even in the first half, gives this team a run for its money. Not saying they win, but give them a run for the money. Let it ride or cash out. Number 3, to the professional ranks we go. And speaking of former Alabama quarterbacks, let it ride or cash out. Patriots starting quarterback Mac Jones will have more touchdown passes than Jaguars starting quarterback Trevor Lawrence in week 1 of the regular season.
All I'm doing today, baby, is cashing out on this one. It has everything to do with the matchup for these 2 quarterbacks in their first ever NFL start. Trevor Lawrence, it's as good a matchup as you're going to see in the NFL this season, maybe. It's in Houston, but he's taking on a Texans team.
You hate this Texans
that I contend. I might actually love them because I'm putting a lot of money on them to go 0-17.
Oh my God, if this works.
Rooting for them to lose every game, and if they oblige by my desires, I make a lot of money here. So they're in Houston. Even with Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence making their NFL debuts, they're about a field goal favorite. That should tell you everything you need to know about the Texans as a home dog week 1 against a team that was 1-15 with 15 straight losses a season ago. Brian Flores, coming off that Bill Belichick tree, I trust him a lot more than David Culley and the Houston Texans, whatever they're doing on that defensive side of the ball. So Lawrence and Texans, way better than Jones versus the Dolphins.
Right there with you. The operative word here is more. Mac Jones having more touchdown passes than Jaguar starting quarterback Trevor Lawrence. They each throw for 3 and have a great day. We win by cashing out because it's not more. Let's go through some of the math. Jacksonville is a 3-point favorite with a total of 45. That's in Houston. That's an implied team total of 24 points for the Jaguars. For New England, they're a 2.5-point favorite with a total of 44. That's an implied team total of 23.5. Vegas is telling you that they project both teams to score pretty much the same in their situations. Oh, by the way, once Mac Jones was named the starter, it went from New England -3 to New England -2.5. Some money came in on the Miami Dolphins. Keep that in mind. I'm with you on Lawrence. It's a much better matchup. And again, Mac Jones has to throw more touchdown passes. More touchdown passes against a very good defense. So, speaking of rookie quarterbacks, we know who's going to start in New England. Mac Jones. We know who's going to start in Jacksonville. Trevor Lawrence. One of the places we don't know about is the San Francisco 49ers and whether or not it's going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, the incumbent, or the rookie Trey Lance. That's the only quarterback competition left outside of what's taking place in Chicago. So, Nick Wagoner covers the 49ers for ESPN. He is a Sports Nation reporter. He had this to say about who's going to start in week 1 against the Detroit Lions.
49ers coach Kyle Shanahan has been given plenty of opportunities to name a starting quarterback over the last few weeks, but has so far refused to do so, saying only that he has, quote, a pretty good idea of who it's going to be. And really, I think we have a pretty good idea of who it's going to be also, and that's incumbent Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo was going to be tough to beat out, Shanahan said from the very beginning of camp. And while rookie Trey Lance certainly had his moments where he flashed his tantalizing potential, he didn't have quite a consistent enough camp to really apply pressure to Garoppolo for the starting job. In fact, what's going to be more interesting is how the 49ers use both quarterbacks in games this year. It's quite clear that Shanahan intends to use the duo in tandem, alternating them in and out in various spots. It just remains to be seen how often that's going to happen. As for when Shanahan's going to actually name a starter, probably sometime early next week when Trey Lance has a chance to recover from his finger injury, and the Niners have a good idea of how things might look when they play the Lions on September 12th.
Attaboy, Nick. And speaking of that game, the Niners are laying 7.5 in Detroit for week 1. So if Garoppolo is in fact the starter, how would you bet that game?
Regardless of who's playing quarterback, I like the Niners side. I would lay it, even though I actually like Lance. I have more confidence in my bet if Lance is starting versus Garoppolo. I'm a believer that Jimmy Garoppolo is the Jared Goff of the San Francisco 49ers, propped up by Kyle Shanahan, and now there's a better talent that can fully maximize Shanahan's offense in the building with Trey Lance and presumably for Sean McVay in LA and Matt Stafford. However, Jared Goff, my old buddy, and that abysmal offense that they have. I mean, have you seen his wide receivers that he has?
He's got nothing.
Like, Joey Bosa's back. That defense should be really good again. You got Warner in the middle of that defense. And I do trust that whoever is turning around and handing the ball off to Trey Sermon and Raheem Mostert will be able to engineer enough scoring drives to make this a 10, double-digit type of victory for the San Francisco 49ers. So this is a belief that the Niners are one of the better teams in the National Football League this season, and the Lions are one of the worst in the National Football League this season.
First of all, Nick Bosa, not Joey. That would be.
Did I say Joey? Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Apologies,
It'd be
Joey in LA.
In the jar if I was still working in San Francisco, which shockingly, the co-hosts could not get that right for about a year. We filled this jar up with hundreds of dollars. No one could get it right. It was absolutely ridiculous. I would make two bets in this situation if Garoppolo is the quarterback. Number one, a teaser option right here. We've talked about this before, ladies and gentlemen. Take San Francisco minus 7.5, tease them down to 1.5. They only have to win by 2. The catch is that you've got to do it with a second team as well, and that would be Tampa Bay on Thursday night against Dallas. You take them, currently a 7.5-point favorite as well, and tease it down to 1.5. In order to win the bet, we have to win both sides. That, ladies and gentlemen, is your 6-point teaser lesson for the day. I'd also bet the Detroit team total.
Yeah.
I bet that they'll score fewer than 19 points in this game. San Francisco's defense is going to be loaded. It's going to be aggressive. DeAndre Swift, by the way, might not be ready to go week 1 for the Lions. Battling an injury, that offense is already depleted. You take DeAndre Swift out of the equation.
They do, on paper, have a good offensive line in Detroit.
Yes.
That we can say. But there's no weapons for Goff to throw to, and the running back room, like DeAndre Swift is good, but you're going to be playing from behind so much this season.
All right, so phase 2 here. San Francisco currently has the second best odds to win the NFC West at 2-1, right behind your Los Angeles Rams. Would you play the Niners at 2-1 to upset the Rams and win the division?
I would not, because I'd rather play Seattle with a better price at plus 280 and the best quarterback in the division in Russell Wilson, regardless of who plays and lines up for the Niners this season. So I'm getting a better price on the best quarterback and a team that is right there. Their win total is like 10. I think the Niners and the Rams like 10.5. They're essentially the same, but I'm getting the best quarterback who is now getting an offensive coordinator in Shane Waldron, who's coming from Sean McVay's tree. You're getting rid of Brian Schottenheimer. I think that's a massive upgrade. Tempo is going to be boosted through the roof, and for a quarterback is as efficient over the course of his career as Russell Wilson, who has Tyler Lockett to throw to, who has DK Metcalf to throw to, has Chris Carson to turn around and hand off to. And remember how much better that Seattle defense looked in the second half of last season? I think that's the smarter bet. If it's not the Rams, then the 49ers because of the price.
Defense got much better second half. Offense got much worse, but hopefully Shane Waldron comes in and corrects that. I would not bet the Niners at 2-1. I wouldn't fault anyone for playing the Niners, given the head coach, given the defense, given the weapons they have on offense, and given the strength of the NFC West. I don't think there's anything wrong with that bet, but I'm on record, and I know you feel similar to this. I like the Los Angeles Rams. I like them to win the division. I like them to win the NFC, and I'm playing them to win the Super Bowl as well. Matthew Stafford is going to be a huge upgrade over Jared Goff. You know the narrative. This was the number 1 ranked total defense, number 1 ranked scoring defense last year. Great coaching. In Sean McVay's tenure, look at how much success they've had on the road, right? There are certain metrics you want to look at to indicate whether or not a team truly is good. Winning on the road means you're good. Sacks mean you're good. Turnovers mean you're good. Those are the things you want to keep an eye on. This is a team that has consistently had success on the road. So I'm going to be on the Rams. Don't fault anyone for playing the Niners, obviously. And I do like where you're at with Seattle. It's an interesting price.
You forgot everyone's, as I knock on wood here, favorite Sean McVay stat. Never lost a game in which he had a lead at halftime.
Oh my God!
In his 4-year NFL career.
We have a few great stats that are going to be coming back with football season that we're going to be able to reference every single week.
Certainly, he'll have that lead week 1 against the Bears at halftime, and Justin Fields will come out of there with his cape on and lead the Bears to a victory.
Brooksy!
You're out of here.
Not allowed to say that anymore on the PGA Tour as we transition to par 3 for the Tour Championship, which is this week at East Lake Country Club in Atlanta, Georgia. Par 70, 7,346 yards. Dustin Johnson is your defending champion. Now remember, there's a few things to keep in mind here. Number 1, this is a 30-player field. Only 30 players in the event, and there is staggered scoring taking place. Based on everything that's happened in the playoff leading up to the Tour Championship, Patrick Cantlay is starting at -10. Bryson DeChambeau will be starting at -8. and you see on and on down the list. So if you're going to be making bets, you've got to understand with your bookmaker, are you betting based on the staggered scoring, which you can see in front of you, or are you making bets based on non-staggered scoring, which would basically be every other tournament. Right. They both start at even, and they go from there. So just make sure you're paying attention to your rules this week. Now, with that in mind, we go over to our lead golfer here. T-Box is yours. 3 best bets for the week. What do you got?
Okay, I have one that removes the staggered scoring. So this is without the starting strokes. It's Jon Rahm to have one of the top 5 scores, without the starting strokes, of the 30 men in the field. And that's even money. And that may seem silly, but Jon Rahm is playing golf that well right now. It's not quite Tiger in his prime, but, I mean, he's making it look pretty darn easy each and every week out there.
Preach it.
7 top 10s in a row. And I'm going to include Memorial. Because remember, that was the event he had to withdraw on Sunday with a 6-stroke lead.
He's going to win it.
Yeah, and that would have made it 4 top 5s and 2 wins in his last 7 events. And over his last 16 rounds on worldwide, he has 1 round over par. It was a 1 over 71 in the opening round of the Open Championship.
Easy event.
He's really just the best golfer in the world right now. I think he's going to have one of the top 5 scores without the starting strokes. Now we get to 2 bets with the starting strokes. The first one, Victor Hovland to finish top 10, plus 163. So he's got to make a little bit of move here to get inside the top 10, but he's gained 20 strokes ball striking over the last 4 events, and this is going to be an event at East Lake where you need good ball strikers like Victor Hovland from tee to green. He's got to putt better, which he's lost strokes on the green his last 3 or 4 rounds, or his last 3 or 4 tournaments. But Bermuda grass greens, which we have at East Lake, are his preferred putting surface. He's 6th on tour in birdies per round, 15th in scoring average, so he's a guy who can go low. And in a no-cut event, I need him to go low one of those days, fire a 63, 62, and he'll be right there in the top 10. And then a little dart. I think one guy who can come from back of the pack and win at decent value is JT, Justin Thomas. Very similar to Victor Hovland. Amazing tee to green ball striker. When his putting's on, few in the world can beat him. But his putting has been off a little bit. Although he is not necessarily a Bermuda specialist, he loves East Lake and loves playing well at the FedEx Cup Tour Championship. He's and also loves no-cut events. 8 of his 16 wins have come at no-cut events, and he's finished top 7 in each of the last 5 Tour Championships. This is a guy who has some course history and has the game to win it from back of the pack.
Love the grass analysis.
Gotta know the grass that you're playing on.
Gotta be up to speed on the grass.
Carl Sackler.
All right. I am going to have a very specific strategy that I'm going to deploy this week, and it's similar to what we did last week to success. It's going to be fading Collin Morikawa. So take a look at this. It's 3 4-round matchups in which I'll be betting against Collin Morikawa. We'll start with Dustin Johnson, minus 115 over Collin Morikawa. I'm not going to give you any analysis on DJ or any of the guys going against Morikawa. This is a bet against him for one specific reason. He's dealing with a lingering back issue. So in addition to Dustin Johnson, minus 115, we'll play Cameron Smith, minus 110 over Collin Morikawa. And then the final one to bring up there is Louis Oosthuizen at even money to defeat Collin Morikawa. Lingering back issue. Now, keep this in mind. Last week, for as great as he's been playing, he finished 63rd out of 66 golfers. Translation, not good. Not a good performance at all. And we told you that last week that he was dealing with that injury, and he didn't play very well. He only had 1 round under 70. The week before that at the Northern Trust, he missed the cut entirely. So keep that in mind. Now, he's way out of range to win this thing. Miracles could happen, sure, but he's way out of range to win this thing. Remember, the Ryder Cup is at the end of the month, and this guy is going to want to play in the Ryder Cup, and he's going to want to play well. So how hard is he going to be willing to push himself in an event like this when he's had an amazing year? He won the Open Championship. He's a year removed from winning the PGA Championship when it was in San Francisco. He's been incredible. So based on that back injury, we're going to take DJ, we're going to take Cameron Smith, and we're going to take Louis O. I don't think they've adjusted the prices enough because of the injury, because no one's betting against him. Well, there you go. There's a card betting against him.
I want to bust your chops for, kind of busting the chops of a good young man and a good young golfer. But
he's a fine young man.
It's pretty solid handicapping. And you make a good point about the Ryder Cup probably being his priority at this point, because he really can't win the $15 million from where he's coming from. He'd have to shoot like 2 back-to-back 60s on Friday and Saturday or something. So I think it is solid handicapping, kind of picking on Morikawa, who doesn't deserve it, but your wallet deserves it, my friend. Your wallet deserves wins. and that might be a good way to win some money.
Not just about betting on the guys who are playing well, it's about betting against the guys who are hurt or playing poorly. And I'm shocked, in the upset of all upsets, this guy mentioned on the podcast this morning that he belongs to the same golf club as Colin Morikawa, but he failed to mention it here today, showing amazing restraint. So help yourself to a free roulette bet later down at the table.
I thought 2 mentions on the ESPN platforms would be a little gratuitous.
Not for me. I think you should have been mentioning it all day. All right, let's move to the college football gridiron. On Monday, we gave you our selections for Thursday night's games. If you want to take a look at where we are at, there has been some significant line movement here. We'll start with Boise State and UCF, both of us playing the over in that matchup. I don't believe it's 38 and a half. 68 and a half.
If you can find 38 and a half.
Yes, play it. Play it for everything.
Hammer it.
Everything. And then in Ohio State, Minnesota, you are on the Buckeyes minus 14. That'll probably go up a little bit higher. The total has dropped to 63 in that game. Remember, Ohio State with Oregon on deck could very well yank the starters and go vanilla late in the second half if they're up big. Keep that in mind. So now it's time to lay out what we like for Friday. And then on tomorrow's bet show, we will lay out what we like for the weekend. So
there it is.
Look at that.
Boom. I mean, we got people behind the scenes who just make things happen quickly. I've learned that while doing this bet show.
It's a surprise they even trot us out here. We're really just talking puppets at this point with all the genius going on behind the scenes.
There's the right total.
Game number 1, it's the 10th ranked North Carolina Tar Heels, a team you aren't that high on, or at least not as much as everybody else this season. Traveling to Blacksburg to take on Virginia Tech. North Carolina laying 5.5, total of 64. How do you see it?
Yeah, I think Stanford Steve has mentioned he thinks this is a dangerous spot for the Tar Heels as well. So I'll take the 5.5-point head start, the home dog, in a conference matchup. We know Blacksburg, always a difficult place to go play. And I'm doubly concerned because Sam Howell is going in there. And I keep hammering this point over and over again, belabored, but he's going to Blacksburg without 42 touchdowns from last year's offense and 4,000 yards of offense. Michael Carter, Javonte Williams, their two-headed monster at running back, gone to the NFL. Diami Brown, Daz Newsome, also gone to the NFL, his top 2 wide receivers. Virginia Tech, built on a culture of playing good defense, obviously good special teams, and I think they can keep this game close, maybe even pull off the outright upset because they'll have that home crowd, and there are questions about how does Mac Brown replenish this offense that lost so much production, even with the trigger man who appears to be as good as Sam Howell. So I'll take the 5.5 head start with the hokey high.
I will lean into a lot of what you're saying. I'm going to play under 64 in this game. This is going to be at Lane Stadium. Enter Sandman. First pack house at Lane Stadium in a while. Kids just got back to college. Friday night, ranked opponent in North Carolina. It's going to be loud. It's going to be drunk. It's going to be boisterous. And early in the game, when you're trying to replace that many players along the North Carolina offense, there could be some hiccups. Keep that in mind. A slow start could be all we need to keep it under 64. This is going to be year 2 of Justin Hamilton as the Virginia Tech defensive coordinator after he took over for a longtime legend. Last year, remember, a lot of these guys, the rookies, they didn't have much time to work with their players. The pandemic, you didn't get spring practices, and if you did, you got a limited amount. Now you've got a full year under your belt. I think Justin Hamilton's going to have a much better defense out there. Slow start for North Carolina, loud crowd, all that stuff. We're going to go under 64 points, Virginia Tech and North Carolina on Friday.
I will also point out the under 9-4 the last 2 seasons at Lane Stadium in Blacksburg. So that's a trend.
Boy.
That also plays into what I noticed with that.
Game number 2, this is up your wheelhouse. We're going to be playing the Kansas game every single week this season because you have bet the under on what, 1.5 wins?
Yes, I have.
So here we go. Game number 1, the Jayhawks laying 15.5. Big favorites here. Total of 55.5 against the South Dakota Coyotes.
Where do you think I'm going with this bad boy? I'll be taking the points in my pocket with South Dakota. This is, and I'm not, this is serious. This is, if Kansas wins a game, this will be the only one they win this season. They will not win another game after this. In Big 12 play, certainly. And then their non-conference schedule is actually pretty difficult. They had Coastal Carolina on their. They're going to get blown out by 30 by Coastal Carolina. So 15.5 points. Again, I think the Jayhawks probably win this. I'll just hope, because of nothing more than my blind hatred of Kansas and everything that is Kansas Jayhawks, that South Dakota covers the 15.5. That's it.
I hate to do it to you. I am going to be on the other side in this game. I'm going to lay 15.5. It's a ridiculous price But let's take a look at South Dakota because that's what this handicap's about. South Dakota is not North Dakota. I hope you know that because North Dakota State trots some real football out there. South Dakota struggled. They actually played 4 games on the FCS schedule from late February into March. And in those 4 games, they went 1-3, and they had a point differential of -25. The offense barely averaged 20 points per game, if that. Now, there was some inclement weather that played into that, sure, so we will keep that in mind. But this is a team that had some reps in the spring, late winter, and they didn't do very much with it. Lance Leopold, the former head coach of the University of Buffalo, he and his staff are taking over at Kansas. And I can't think of a better way to send a message very early on than to bring an opponent like South Dakota, to pay them handsomely for their troubles, and to put up big-time points early. I might be a little optimistic in hoping for all of that, but I do think the Jayhawks will break well from the gate against an inferior opponent, reluctantly laying 15.5. This is not an Anita Marks run, don't walk bet to the window. Let's make that very clear. Game number 3 for Friday, a little Big Ten showdown here.
This will be a barn burner.
Northwestern laying 3, total of 46 against Michigan State. Total of 46. Only a game a Big Ten mother could love.
Yeah, look at how that line opened with Northwestern as touchdown and a hook favorite. He's now down to Northwestern -3. This has Big Ten special written all over it, so that line movement, I'll stay away and attack the total. I'll just go under 46. It's a low number, especially for a college football game, even in the Big Ten. But these are two teams that have traditionally been built on boring offense, and if they do win and are a competitor in the Big Ten, it's because they have solid defense and special teams. So Northwestern, 23-9 to the under the last 5 seasons. That's the Pat Fitzgerald special at home.
Yep.
They were 4-0 to the under at home last season. Again, a little bit different because a lot of those players that helped them generate the 5th defense in terms of scoring points allowed, a lot of those guys are gone. But I think, again, Pat Fitzgerald's building a team that's going to be built around playing good defense in front of your home crowd and trying to win low-scoring 21-17 games. A nice Big Ten special. Neither offense impressive. Mel Tucker, last year, obviously some extenuating circumstances, but it wasn't all that impressive. Michigan State could be one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, though the way this line is moving, I think a lot of people are thinking some of those transfers that Tucker's brought in may help. I'm going to stay away from that side, like I said, and just Big Ten it, go under 46.
I will take the 3 with Michigan State. I will follow the steam in this one. First off, keep an eye on the weather. There could be some rain in Evanston for this game. It's not a lock, but you got to keep an eye on this stuff as we move our way into the start of the season. If Northwestern was so nasty last year, which they were, why is this line moving so aggressively against them? Well, there's a few reasons. The first is, while every team in the country is seemingly bringing back 18 or more starters, these guys are only bringing back 8. 4 on offense, 4 on defense. That was a nasty defensive unit. But if you're only bringing back 4 starters, there could be some questions there. And offensively, you're only bringing back 4 starters from a unit that averaged 24 points per game last season. Unders and dogs correlate, overs and favorites correlate. We have a very low total in this game, and I'm going to get 3 points with Michigan State, who is in year 2 of Mel Tucker. The pandemic, you only had so much time to work with these kids. You're going to end up bringing 16 starters back. Michigan State's not going to be great, but they could surprise, especially in this one. Feels like the secret's out. Yeah. Sparty's going to be the side in this one. The question is whether or not the ticket actually cashes, which brings us to the final opportunity to cash a ticket on this program. It's called Before I Let You Go. And before we let you go, we'd like you to have one more bet that we're eyeing up for either tonight or the near future. Fire away.
I'll go to Major League Baseball and going to play a total concerning my St. Louis Cardinals. They're in the Natty, take it on the Reds. Game got rained out yesterday, so a doubleheader today. Cardinals won the first game 5-4 in 7 innings, and this afternoon/evening they'll play game 2, and I'm going to go under 7 behind Jay Happ and Sonny Gray. That's the pitching matchup. I should have realized this when John Lester shoved against the Reds. The Reds are not a very good offense against left-handed pitching this season. They're 30th in average against lefties and 28th in slugging and OPS, which seems crazy because they have some right-handed pop in that lineup. The Cardinals offense, outside of the way Paul Goldschmidt's hitting the ball these days, doesn't scare me at all. So I think Sonny Gray can limit them. But again, it's only a 7-inning game and 7 runs. I'm going to go under that because I think the Reds are going to struggle again, and it's going to be a tight, low-scoring ball game.
I love me some college football, so I'll go back to the gridiron. I'll give you something for tomorrow night, Thursday. Rutgers minus 14.5 over Temple. Apologies to half my family who graduated from Temple, but they're going to stink this year. More importantly, this is a bet on Greg Schiano and Rutgers. Schiano took over a program last year that had gone 2-10. He went 3-6. with Rutgers last year and lost in triple overtime to Michigan. This is going to be a much better team than people give them credit for. 21 starters are back from last year's team. They had a full off season of work. Temple went 1-6 last year and lost by an average of 20 points per game. I think Schiano and Rutgers are going to come out. They're going to want to make a statement, and they're going to be more than capable of doing it in this game. Lay the 14.5. Line's been moving against me. It's gone from 13 up to 14. Now it's through 14 to 14.5, but they should smack them. That guy right there. Tyler Fulgham. This guy, Joe Cornball. This is Bet. We will catch you later on Daily Wager, ESPN News, 6 p.m. Eastern. Thank you for watching.